Okay, I think I can see the numbers leveling out now on people who are in the webinar. So we'll make a quick start. Hello, my name is Andrew Thomas, and I'm the director of the Ticketing Professionals Conference. And it's a great pleasure to welcome an old friend and colleague, Martin Gameltoft from Activity Stream, for this session. We've done with this session set of 6 or 7 webinars is bringing back some of the best content from TPC 2025. So we hope you enjoy that. If you missed this session in Manchester or you couldn't make it to Manchester, if you're one of the few people that haven't used Zoom webinar before, head down to the bottom. There's a Q&A box there. Pop your questions in there for Martin or for discussion, and we'll run through those at the end, hoping to be about 25, 30 minutes, and then straight into some Q&A afterwards. So with that, I'll hand over to Martin Gameltoft. Martin.
Thank you so much. Today's rerun from TPC topic is pre-sales and how to make them more effective and how to use them in many different ways. If anyone here doesn't know me, I am Martin. And you, as an added bonus, you can have the fun of listening to my accent maybe going sideways or where it decides. I always say I don't really control it myself. I recently had the fun experience of having 2 weeks where in every demo I did, I could recognize the voice, but I couldn't like really pin it down. And then finally, I figured out that it was Sean from Hot Ones, from having seen a few of those shows. So yeah. But thanks for Andrew to setting the tone. So now I'll probably continue in this. I work with a company called Activity Stream, dedicated to live entertainment, and we do different things. We have an integrated marketing platform. We provide audience engagement tools via CrowdEngage, and we also have a venue management tool called YesPlan. None of which will be the topic of today. Today we are gonna hear about pre-sales. And as I can't see any of you, I brought my own audience, as you can see. So this is what arts marketers look like if you ask ChatGPT. So we're a beautiful bunch. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about pre-sales, as it were, and some of you know me. I have a tendency to kind of try to break things down into like the different aspects. And one thing that, well, we're going to kind of start from the top and say, when you're setting up a pre-sale, you know, it's just like, let's set a pre-sale, but I would always say the first thing you do is define the goals. Like, what should come of this pre-sale? Why are we doing it? And as I was kind of thinking about this, a pre-sale can serve so many different goals. You can aim to capture data. You can aim to improve or push sales earlier. You can use it for demand estimation if you're not really sure about kind of what demand are we expecting for like the full on sale. You can use pre-sales to, you know, reward customer loyalty. You can use pre-sales to increase sponsorship revenue. You can push memberships. You can lower marketing costs. We'll come back to that in a bit. And you can also actually use it to just ensure that you have a fair ticket distribution. So as you set those goals and you kind of decide like this is why we're doing it, you can say there are different types of pre-sales. They kind of aim towards different goals. You can have a fully open pre-sale, so that you don't require a sign up. It is just, there is a link somewhere out there, and maybe you've only shared it in specific channels or widely, but it means that those that find that link can join the pre-sale. Then you can have a sign-up pre-sale, where you run a sign-up process ahead of the pre-sale where people are required to sign up. Otherwise, they won't be let in. You could also have a gated pre-sale where there's specific requirements. It could be you have to be a member, or you have to have made a prior purchase, or you need to have a season ticket, or you need to have a specific donor level. So those are those where you can say there are some specific requirements on the customer that they need to fulfill. And the final one is the sponsored pre-sale, typically sold off to a commercial partner, and that partner can then kind of define the access, whether they just want to share it with their clients or their employees or customers using their services. And then as I was going over this, and as you'll see in a bit, I've spoken to a lot of different organizations about how they use this. And we came up with, this is really the framework that across all different pre-sales and ballots, this is the process. So going into the pre-sale, you have different methods of sharing that information. It could be, sending an email, sending a targeted email or general newsletter. It could be SMS communications. It could be organic posts on Facebook and Instagram and so on. Or it could be that you're pushing the pre-sale via paid campaigns. We'll also come back to that. That potentially leads into a sign up, or if it was the open pre-sale, it would lead directly to the pre-sale itself. But let's say it leads into a sign up. If it's somewhat gated, or if it's a ballot, so it might be completely random, you will run a selection process, and that then gives people access to the pre-sale itself. On the back of the pre-sale, I think it's also really important that you have already ahead of the pre-sale, you've decided how do we follow up with people. Obviously, for those that bought a ticket, might be pretty straightforward. They get a purchase confirmation. But for others, it might be to say, like, those that didn't get tickets, how do we continue to work with that list? Or it might be that everyone who participated in pre-sale, well, we're going to just put them aside and then use that list later for another concert. We'll come back to all the different examples. The way I suggest that working with this is that you start by defining the goals, as we talked about previously, and then you just start with this full map of everything that you could be including in the pre-sale process, and then you remove what you don't need. So it's kind of just flipping the process a little bit around by saying, like, if you start by deciding, oh, let's do this and let's do this, and adding things, you always run the risk of forgetting to kind of have a really structured process, because you might not ask yourself the questions like, should we actually be running paid campaigns, or should we actually be following up either via retargeting on paid social, or should we be following up with email? So you need to decide and define all of those aspects ahead of the pre-sale. So as we look at the communications, there are some best practices that I would really recommend. First thing is, and this is for all your email communications, if an email is not a general newsletter, I would always make it really, really clear that this is a communication that is different. This is not a general newsletter. It is for me personally, whether that be, in this case, an invite to a pre-sale. It could also be that a targeted campaign in that leads to or links to something else, like a personal recommendation or something. So I'd always highlight it really clearly in the subject line to make sure that this is an email that people don't skip. Same, I would already in the graphic, in the header, I would always also kind of have a signaling part of the graphic to show this is something different than a newsletter. And I would generally recommend that you do email headers for every specific type of communication. In this one, we can see there's a very clear call to action and a little calendar link. And there's also a countdown. As pre-sales are, what you want to do is create that fear of missing out. A pre-sale countdown is really effective. And first and foremost, tell them why they are invited. This is something that you want to ensure that people feel that you're really, giving them value. They should feel seen and valued. So always make that clear. If you can combine with SMS messaging for maximum impact, generally seeing that SMS cuts through the noise as a pre-sale is something that you really want to, it's very time limited. You want people on it and you want to make sure that people do feel the value that you have selected them for it, or, that they somehow got access to that pre-sale. For the corporate ones or the commercial partnership pre-sales, try the best you can to have a kind of across all communications, whether it's the invite to the pre-sale, it is the pre-sale itself. Here I highlighted in the middle something that's been done by another third-party platform called Project Admission. They're able to do these branded sales portals, if you will. So in this case, I just mocked up something with Toyota. So the invite, the sale itself, and the follow-up email, all of them really have a clear branding. And if you can make that go through the entire process, that is also going to work really well with sponsors. So there's a general recommendation as well. Oh, yes, we do have some examples, attentive listeners. So let's go and look at those examples. So here is Beyonce back in, I believe, I'm just going to cheat here. Yeah, back in February, she ran pre-sales for the upcoming tour. I have highlighted here, so across the 8 potential goals, you can say she's hitting at least 7 of them, maybe even demand estimation. So it's like a full sheet there. So what she did was she ran a data capture process, having signups. Then she had, you can say, what is she trying to achieve? Definitely improve sales, and this is probably non-tickets. I don't think that she would have a huge problem selling the tickets themselves. So looking at kind of how she ran it, she had really clear overview from day one. She announced how the pre-sale dates were gonna run. The first one was Beehive members. So that ensured that a lot of people would be signing up to the Beehive. She was growing that audience. I think I read 2 million people signed up. Then afterwards, she had commercial pre-sales with local partners, so in different regions of the world. She would have different commercial partners. Then she would have an artist pre-sale, and then the general on sale. Can't imagine there were a lot of tickets left. But again, really nicely done, very clear. People had a long time. I think the Beehive pre-sale was announced maybe 2-3 weeks before. So you just had that landing page with a countdown. So it actually gave people a long time to figure out kind of how they could sign up for the pre-sale in whatever way they found that would be the easiest. Okay, that's great. We don't exactly have Beyonce coming to our venue. Okay. So let's take it down a notch. Okay, here is Sam Fender. Sam Fender did a few concerts at Newcastle Arena, which for him were considered underplay. They knew that he could sell a lot more tickets than what could fit in Newcastle Arena, but they weren't really sure. So they set up 2 pre-sales for the Newcastle Arena. That obviously captured a lot of data. People were signing up for that. That gave them a clear indication of the demand, and that was then used for pre-sale. They specifically said this is a local show, so local postcodes got special access. a lot more people signed up, obviously. So they had a huge pre-sale list. The pre-sale was used to gauge interest because later that year he was doing summer stadium shows. They had not been announced at that time. So they ran the pre-sale, like build up those sign-ups, gave special access to local postcodes, sold out in minutes or in a few hours, obviously. And then they used the pre-sale list to do post pre-sale mailings to those that didn't get tickets. Saying there is still a second chance, there is still a general on sale. That turned out to be highly effective. They saw a lot of conversion from that mailing. And then after the two shows at Newcastle Arena, they just took the same list and they reused it for stadium shows. So incredibly low cost marketing effort for those shows. So again, you can say this defining and designing that process from start to finish with all the different, okay, those that do this, we'll put them in this list, then that happens, then this goes. And just following that process and just evaluating it every step of the way. Really well done. Another one I've seen is a promoter in Scandinavia, and they've done something where they've worked really methodically with upcoming artists. So they took Father John Misty, they took War on Drugs, and took them in from pretty early on. So people are discovering these artists. They played maybe smaller venues in the beginning, and then as they took them back to Denmark and Scandinavia, the second time round, having to be kind of estimate a little bit like what was the demand. Sometimes it's hard to tell if it's an upcoming artist, like at what exact level are they. So they booked mid-sized venue and ran pre-sales where they said, okay, we're going to take everyone who bought tickets the first time, maybe 2 years before, send invites to those, set up a Facebook event page, ran pre-sales from that, got a pretty good pre-sale sign-up list, and that turned out to sell. Basically, I don't think they capped the pre-sale, so that was allowed to almost sell out the entire first show. And as soon as they had that, they knew, okay, we have enough demand. So they had already booked extra night and could announce them almost like during or immediately after the pre-sale, saying the first pre-sale was so effective or was so well attended that we've almost sold all the tickets, but don't worry, there is going to be a second one. And they were just taking the list from the first pre-sale. Those that didn't get tickets were offered to get on a waiting list, and then that could immediately turn that around. So again, by designing the process well ahead of these pre-sales, they were able to execute all those elements really, really quickly and kind of build that momentum that kept things really exciting and had people kind of really build that fear of missing out. So I think you lose a lot of momentum if you go like, you run the first one and then you start exploring, like, can we actually do a second night? And, coming back a week later and saying like, hey, we're now announcing a second night. You really can use that momentum. Any cases from theatre and performing arts? Well, of course, B Music. So again, talking about designing a process that's reusable. So they have been really focused on improving sales and pushing membership. So every week, every single concert that goes on sale, on Thursday, there's a pre-sale. It's for members. On Friday, there's a general on sale for everyone. So every week they have the same communication saying like, well, yeah, we have this concert upcoming. As you know, on Thursday, if you want to make sure that you can get your hands on tickets, it's for members. So every week you can say it's leading up, like sign up to become a member, and is even incorporated into promoter contracts. So all the way back, you can say to when people are booking the venue, they know that the contract with B Music is gonna follow this process, and they make sure that there are allocations for the pre-sale.
Oh,
And just some,
Martin, can I just jump in? There's a question come in that's very specific to the B Music one here, which was sorry, so it's because it's very specific to this one. Is there a case of having too many pre-sales? Because you said that early on in those slides about feeling special and you're invited. If you have it every week, is there not a chance? In your opinion, do you think you could get pre-sale overload because it's then not as special as being invited by your credit card company or because you're signed up or because you're a member?
I think it goes a little bit back to the goal. So if we say like the key thing for B Music is to constantly build up membership sales. So it's not, you can say, well, it's not that I'm going to personally feel really special and invited. It just means you can be in bracket A or you can be in bracket B. And every week that's fully transparent. So I know and everyone knows exactly what to do. So if Cliff Richard is coming, you know exactly what you have to do to be in that first pre-sale. So yeah, it's kind of not an invitation only pre-sale. It's more of like, this is just a benefit from memberships. And they do so many concerts every year. So I think it's more of methodology.
And I apologise because I seem to have opened the floodgates. That one question that one question has created a bit of a flurry. So if you are on the webinar and you want to pop in some questions, head down to the bottom in the Q&A box and put them in there. Just while we're on the subject of B Music, my namesake, Mr. Collier, Andrew Collier. Hello, nice to see you. He kind of says, like, when is a pre-sale a priority booking period? I mean, is there, in your opinion, is there a distinction between priority booking and pre-sale?
I had not thought about it before, so well, you can say, yeah, this is we're probably more in priority booking territory here, where it's just saying like, yeah, it is just a way to move to have a preferred access.
Okay, and then I promise this last one on B Music, and then we'll later move on, which is from Pete Stevens, who is running for the education panel 25 through 28. So if you haven't voted for Pete, do so now. I used to work. Yeah, no, it wasn't that blatant, but I thought I'd mention it. So Pete says, I used to work for B Music, and the routine just became the norm. He says the conversions of memberships was always really high. So a bit about, not less of a question, more of a comment there, but very obviously showing that there is a really good route there in achieving those goals. So thanks, Pete, for that, and fingers crossed on the voting. Martin, back to you.
All right, yeah, and if you're doing this methodically every week, yes, there's definitely going to be those special ones where it's like in this case Cliff Richard, and I think the next one is Robert Plant. So obviously, if you are able to attract those, that's probably going to be the peak ones. I'm sure that they have weeks where it's maybe a not so attractive concert, so maybe you're not bumping up that membership, but it's just a way to, like, every week you're pushing the same thing, and they're seeing, so you both get membership revenues and you get ticket sales. So it's just really effective, and by having it be a repeated process, I also think that puts minimum effort on the team, or minimal tasks on the team. Cheers is the festival, running a little bit the same, where they say, okay, they're focusing on membership sales, they're focusing on customer loyalty. So what they do is, and this is somewhat similar, but what I really like about what they're doing is they have designed a whole communication flow. So they're really running a series of targeted email campaigns to donors, because donors have a specific pre-sale or priority booking. Then members, because members have the second pre-sale, but then they also run things to prospective members when they say, these are people that we already know, these are people that have shown, have maybe bought more than one, attended more than one event in the last 6, 12 months. So they're constantly trying to upsell. And this is not a weekly thing. This is more of a season ticket on sale. But by building this up in this way, it means that they're kind of building up that conversion leading up to it, and they also make it very, very clear to these different audience segments that this is specifically for you. And as they've shared here, they typically sell almost 50% of season tickets during the 2 pre-sales or prior to booking periods. Donmar Warehouse, a little bit similar. They do, again, focused on memberships and patrons. So very similar actually, but here the extra element could be that they have a list in under 35s. So they have specific start by major donors, patrons, major corporations, run then Friends Plus, then run the Friends, and then they do list and under 35s, and then they do the general on sale. So again, there are different levels that people can buy themselves into, and which ensures them that they get, they can spend the money to get to the level that they feel comfortable with. And I really like the fact that they are actually like doing these under 35 pre-sales as well, because it means that they're constantly giving that specific segment something special. All right. Okay, how do I create interest for a pre-sale? I like micro lotteries. Obviously, Hamilton is going to be a crazy example, but what Hamilton did was they ran digital lotteries. So they just said they put up a small number of low price tickets. And so every week you could take part in a lottery that would only have maybe 40 or 50 seats. And they saw roughly 10,000 entries per show. And, there was even a ham for ham tag trending. So it was just a way for them to, every week, they were just getting all these entries, all these registries. And data quality tends to be quite high when you do this because people really, really want to get those tickets. So they're not just giving you a trash email. And yeah, obviously a special thing if you're Hamilton, but I mean, that's all about kind of finding your own level and say, well, maybe you can just do £1 tickets. So you can always run those micro lotteries, and you don't even have to announce how many tickets are on sale at £1. So it could just be that it's 2, but still you can run a micro lottery and get those sign-ups so that you can then, if you always like have the on the back of that, you say like, I'm sorry you didn't get those tickets, but here are all the offerings. Did you know that you could get tickets from as little as £12? As I mentioned all the way back when we talked about the process and talked about how to build these up, we mentioned paid ads. So the idea with paid ads is that you extend the period of time. So as we mentioned, the Beyonce pre-sale lead up was pretty long, but in this case, it can be very, very long. So you would run a lead ad assisted sign up campaign for maybe potentially months. And that would just have people sign up, declare their interest, and all with like, if you sign up, you will be invited to a pre-sale. So especially for long running productions or shows, it's a really effective way to build up that list over time. And you can then invite them to a pre-sale. You know that some of them will convert, but you will already at that point, you'll have like a huge list, somewhat huge list that you can then immediately take those different small segments and say like, okay, great, these converted. We'll give them a rest and see if we can bring them back for a second showing. those that didn't convert, you can keep working that. And there's some great examples that Sign Digital were able to share. So here is Starlight Express. They ran 6-week campaigns, so not really that long, before Starlight Express opened in London. So they were just offering priority booking. The campaign was such a success that it led to the fastest extension. It's a little bit back to that where you go, if demand is not like you're not really sure about what the demand is going to be, then this is a really good way to get a very early indication. They saw 47,000 people sign up. They had a 25% conversion rate in the first 24 hours. 23% of the gross profit was generated in those 24 hours. And they had a lifetime cost per lead of 46p, which is very, very inexpensive when you're then able to run that list over and over again. And you can potentially even transfer those 47k to the next production if you're a commercial theater and you have, or if you're a theater and you have ongoing long-running productions. And then go like, oh, but it could also be used for things like the Grange Festival. So they ran lead ads to attract a younger audience. So really targeted it and said like their focus here was, we want to improve sales, but we want to attract a different audience than the one we have, an aging audience. So they want to have the next generation come in. They ran 2 weeks ahead of the on sale, ran a lead generation campaign, sign up, split it into 2 age groups so they could, have one that just focused on the younger demographic. They had 98% leads were new. 51% of the tickets sold in the pre-sale or the priority booking were sold to people under 35. And they recovered 80% of the campaign gross profit directly from the leads coming from this, with £1.15 lifetime cost per lead, which is, again, it's somewhat higher than Starlight Express, but as this was a completely new audience to them, it was still an exceptionally low lead price. All right, we're coming to the end of this. As I can see, my ChatGPT audience here being a little bit impatient. So some bullet points to summarize. Define your goals. Pre-sales can serve many purposes. And from the goals, design the process, including end-to-end communications, and work from that full outline and remove what you don't need. Clearly mark pre-sale invites to make them stand out and tell people why they're invited, and send reminders. Communicate the pre-sale process clearly. People hate to be frustrated with they didn't know, or they thought that it was longer. And then remember the post-pre-sale communications. Micro-lotteries can be used to create scarcity, even if you have a show that's not expected to sell out. And paid ads for pre-sale signups are potentially a goldmine with high data quality. And the last comment on that one should be always run the lead ads with in-platform sign up. So you're not pushing people to a landing page to sign up. You're just having it in the Meta lead ad format or whatever platform is running the lead ads, but always have the sign up be in platform, because it really helps with conversion. You lose a lot of people from sending them somewhere else. And there's a summary of the design process. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Martin, very, very much on that. If you have got any questions, please put them in the Q&A. I'll start. Somebody chose not to put them in the Q&A, but send me a WhatsApp. So I'll go. It's quite a long. I won't name them because it's quite a long and rambling rant. But sorry to the person who sent me the message. But it specifically going back to Beyonce, which I don't know if you picked up on this, in your monitoring of it, that there were some shows with quite a lot of unsold inventory, and the question here, in a roundabout way, talks about in your discovery points of things that a pre-sale can do, should kind of estimating the price point and the price breaks there should be and what people are prepared to pay, could that be used as some method? I'm not sure how you do that in a pre-sale with, but really, whether they choose a price point or a price band to really see where people's budgets are set and the value they see in a show.
I believe that there've been pre-sale setups where you've had, not even all announced, but you've had maybe 10 pre-sales, and that if you don't want to have the Oasis situation with prices really going up and down during an on-sale or during a pre-sale, then you can have fixed price, but then make smaller pre-sales that then inform the next one and then inform the next one. So that it's a way to put like small allocations on sale in different ones, and then you can just, there's a lot of storytelling around it and saying like, oh, we've opened up more tickets for this particular show, so we're running a second pre-sale. So yeah, I try to always recommend it to be as transparent as you can from the onset, because it creates a lot of frustration if people sign up or they think, oh, I'm going to get into the second pre-sale, but then that's a lot more expensive than the first one. So try to have that be part of the communication, but definitely a way to test it.
Brilliant. Again, if you have got any questions, comments, thoughts, please do pop them in the Q&A now, and I'll get round to those. I mean, this is timely, Martin, because I've actually been doing a bit of a pre-sale for TPC Shameless Plug 2026, which we've never really done before, but we've had running on the website. If you scan the QR code on our logo, it'll take you to a page with a link to it, not in-app, but avoiding one of your tips there. But we've already had 60 new people join our mailing list on wanting to come to TPC 2026 next March. Shameless plug as well.
And did you define the goals for running that pre-sale? Is it to move sales up, or?
No, I mean, we sold out last year. It's more that we do tend to get people, because people write to us or respond after each TPC and said, I wish I knew about this. So really it was trying to be on the back of the publicity for 25 and like all the positive comments on LinkedIn. We wanted to announce next year and also have something you could do that wasn't just join a mailing. I mean, it does add you to the mailing list, but it does tag you in our CRM that you're in for that pre-sale. So those people will get the best price. So if you're on our mailing list and you haven't signed up for that pre-sale, scan the code now, and then you can do that. But also, I think I found it interesting about Sign Digital. I'm hoping that they're going to speak at TPC 2025 and a half, which is in October, yet to be announced. Waiting on a contract for that one. But yeah, I mean, I found it useful. I've never thought about using it for a conference as a pre-sale, and I think Dawn Farrow who hosted On Sale Live last week. She's gone straight out like less than a week after her conference and saying they're now in a pre-sale for 26. So I think the fact we played with it. I didn't really define the goals this much year, but I think I'm already seeing uplift on it in terms of kind of sign-ups and people who are committing to next year. So a last call for
you should be making it really clear that it's a special reward for sitting through to the end of one of these sessions.
Well, yeah, we've got another couple of webinars coming up for those of you who are on the call. Next Tuesday is Swipe, Tap, Engage. Should your audience be using an app? And ticketing, a love language. That's with Caspian on Thursday about avoiding overcomplicated terms in your booking flow. So 2 of those next week. Details again, you can scan the code on screen, which will take you to our website, and you can sign up for those. No more questions, so I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Martin for his time. We'll make this available in our library of on-demand sessions, so if you missed it or you arrived late, please, you'll be able to check that out from tomorrow on the website. But once again, thank you very much to Martin, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much.